Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. As the Madam Toastmaster just said, my name is Dominic Cheverati, and today I'm going to talk to you about the power of compound interest. Here's the agenda of how I'm going to break down compound interest for you today. First off, we're going to talk about why you should care, first and foremost. Then we'll get into what exactly is compound interest, and I'm going to give you multiple examples of that. Third, how much of a difference can it really make? You might be asking yourself. And then finally, is it too late? And I think you probably already know the answer to that. It's no. So why should you care? Before I get into this, some of you today are probably thinking, you know what, Dom, I know about compound interest. I learned about that in high school. I don't really need you to break down compound interest for me. I know how to manage my own money. I'm not trying to get down that path today, but I learned a lot about this because my parents were never good about saving money. I think my dad's philosophy is work till I die and just keep some money under the mattress. So when I learned about compound interest and how it works, it was really an important concept for me, and I really try and grasp it and use it to my advantage as much as I can. But specifically why you should care, first and foremost, it means exponentially more money for you if you use it correctly. It can also benefit you no matter what age you're at or what stage you're at in your life. And the more time you have to use it, the better off you're going to be. So what exactly is compound interest? Many of you may have seen this in your high school economics or math class. What it really ends up coming down to is the amount that I'll have at a given time is the principal, or the amount that I put down initially, multiplied by the 1 plus the interest rate over the number of times it's compounded in a year. And then where the exponential part comes in is I'm going to take that to the power of the number of times I'm compounding that in a year times the number of years. So let's look at an example. Let's say you have somebody that's 30 years old and they have no money in the bank right now, and they have $1,000. Let's say they got $1,000 on a tax return, and they're deciding, should I keep it under the mattress like Randy Cheverati does, or should I think about possibly investing it in the stock market? So I'm going to use an example with the rate of return of the S&P 500. Does anybody know on average what that's been over the last 60 or so years?
8%?
Yeah, 6 to 8%. Warren Buffett says 7, so for my example, I'm going to use 7. And this person's going to retire at 65. So it gives them 35 years to build up the interest. That's what I'm going to plug in. Those are the numbers that I'm going to plug into the formula you see above. You'll see the $1,000 principal, the 7% interest rate that I used, and then compounded over 35 years. The comparison I want to make here is taking the $1,000, putting it under the mattress, or investing it, let's say I get a 7% return. And there's the difference that I can make. So there's the $1,000. In 35 years, under my mattress, I'm going to have $1,000. But if I invest that, and say I get a 7% return annually, I'm going to have about $10,700. So you can see the reason why you'd absolutely want to do that. And you might be thinking, I would never turn down that amount of money. Of course you would take that. But when you don't invest your money, or you don't use compound interest for you, that's essentially what you're saying. I'm going to take another, probably a little bit more appropriate example now. Let's say I'm using the compound interest. I put in that $1,000 at one point, and then every year I want to put in more money. That's obviously going to build my principal and build my gains over the course of, in this example, 35 years. And how that's done without getting into too much math is I'm going to have the A, and then the B that I'm going to add to that is my additional, let's say, annual deposit. I get a $1,000 tax return, and I put that in every year. And then I use the same interest rates. The example I'm going to use is the same, everything's the same, except that I'm adding $1,000 every year, okay? And what that comes down to when you write that out, this looks familiar from the last slide, right? And then I'm going to plug in the numbers of the $1,000 that I add every additional year. What difference would this make if I add $1,000 every year? Well, this is the original amounts that I had from the previous slides. If I just put in $1,000 under the mattress every year, I would have $35,000 after 35 years. But in this case, I got almost $150,000. I think that is a pretty clear example of how compound interest, and especially if you can add additional deposits every year, the big difference that I can make for you and your finances. Is it too late to start, you're asking yourself now? The answer is obviously no. And one example I give for this is, say you have $20. You spend $20, like I probably tonight, I'll spend $20 at Bulldog on Lighthouse Avenue and I'll get a couple Jack and Cokes. Let's say I didn't spend the, well, hypothetically, I didn't spend the $20 on the Jack and Cokes, and I instead decided to invest that money in the stock market, okay, at 7% interest. And it doesn't have to be the stock market, but that's the example I'm using. If I waited 20 years for that $20, I would get $77.39 back. So next time you spend $20, you should think, do I want the $20 now, or is there some investment vehicle I can use to have almost $80 20 years from now? Give you a quick review of what I discussed today. There's the catch with everything. The catch that I didn't really describe in using the stock market is you're going to have brokerage fees to initially get into the stock market for the stocks that you purchase for individual companies. And then there's also a capital gains tax that's, depending on your tax bracket, 15 to 25%, depending on how long you held that stock for. So you're not just pulling out that $77 I would get taxed on that income. And another thing to think about with compound interest is, I just gave examples where it works for you, but think about other places where it works against you. Credit card debt, auto loans, home loans. In that case, it's not adding to your wealth, you're taking away from it, essentially. The bottom line, if you have been falling asleep for the last 5 or so minutes, I want you to know that if you invest your money correctly and you think about the power of compound interest and how it can work for you, it's really an invaluable tool, and it's never too late to start, so why not start now?